One, he looked on LoopNet and he found the brokers who are listing properties on LoopNet, and he made a list. And so this assumes that you have identified markets that you're investing in. So if you haven't identified markets you're investing in, there's a step before number one, that's figure out the markets that you're investing in. And then once you do that, number one is find the brokers on LoopNet and make a list. Okay. Two is you call all those brokers. You introduce yourself. And he has an email script. He also would email them, and you can listen to the interview and you can hear the email script that he used. But he called them and he emailed them. And then every 2 weeks, and this is the key part of the process, every 2 weeks he would call or email those brokers and he would follow up with them. And he would change up the process or change up the wording for how he'd follow up with them. If, for example, he just had a property that he sold, then he'd say, hi, broker XYZ, just had a property that sold. I've got cash that I'm looking to deploy. I know we've talked before, just checking in on if you have anything within, this criteria. And then he'd list out whatever he's looking to purchase. Or some cases he would say, hi, XYZ broker, just following up. And we just liquidated this property, and here's a screenshot of the funds that I'm looking to deploy. And he, at this point, and he's 23 years old now. As I mentioned, he started when he was a senior in college. So we're talking about a very short time frame here. But at this point, he had the ability to do a screenshot of a little over $1 million. Now, clearly that is not something that most people have the opportunity to do when they're starting out, but he had built his business. So he took the screenshot and then he leveraged that screenshot for all the follow-up interviews. He would say, hey, I'm looking to deploy this money. Whether or not he still had that in the bank account, it fluctuated, I'm not sure, but he had that screenshot. And so it added validity to him following up like, hey, I've got the money, I'm ready to rock and roll. Now, if you don't have $1 million in the bank account, this strategy still applies. So I don't want that to turn people off. You don't have to use a screenshot example. The point is that he had multiple ways of following up, and he did it consistently every 2 weeks. I asked him, how many brokers did you have on the list? And he said 20 brokers were on the list. I said, how long did it take for you to follow up with them every 2 weeks? He said 30 minutes max because I had it down to a system. Mm-hmm. He did this for 9 months. 9 months. He did this for 9 months, every 2 weeks. I asked him in month 8, what were you thinking? You can listen to the interview. You can hear what his internal dialogue was in month 8 after being turned down for 8 long months. But he did this for 9 months, and then he in the 9th month, he followed up with the broker during this 2-week process that he always did. And the broker said, well, actually, I have a deal, and here's some information. He said it really wasn't much information. And he said, make an offer, and then I'll send you the financials, which, is always wacky to me, but that's for whatever reason that can be commonplace. So he just made some offer, and the numbers worked out, and he figured some things out, and financials aligned, and blah blah blah. He closed a deal. You can listen to the interview to hear more about the property itself. But the point of this conversation today is making a list from LoopNet brokers, following up on a consistent basis every 2 weeks with those brokers, having something interesting to say every 2 weeks, just change it up slightly, and then do it over a period of time. When you do that, then it's likely to lead to a deal. And most people, now, best ever listeners, you're an exception clearly because you're investing your time to listen to this podcast. So you're doing stuff that most people wouldn't do. But most people won't make the effort to do this consistently over a long period of time. And the key is just getting a couple deals, because when you get a couple deals, you're in the game. And then there's momentum that builds. But a lot of people, most people won't do this, won't take this approach, this methodical approach. And that's what I wanted to share.